Tony D and Little Joan with a screenwriter's rant on Ticket to Paradise, reuniting Julia Roberts with George Clooney in a movie. Smash like and subscribe. Thank you for smash liking and subscribing. Check out my books. Links in the description. Comedy Horror in South Jersey. It's what? It's the Pineys. Books 1 through 9 available at Amazon.com. Kindle Unlimited is free. Don't forget there's an audio book for book 1. I do all the voices. All right, so George Clooney and Julia Roberts were married, and they have a kid, and she's getting married, and they're going to her wedding, but they don't think she should throw her life away by marrying this kid she met in Bali, because she's throwing away her career, she's throwing away her life for love. Yeah, I know, Joe. So it's actually not a bad vehicle for the two of these stars. They get to go to a nice tropical location and shoot a movie, and they get to do a lot of jokey sort of married jokes, right? So they hate each other, but they decide to call a truce in order to derail her daughter's wedding and, convince her not to get married. So they pretend to get along, and then wacky things happen, but they really hate each other. Here they are going to separate rooms. Here they are meeting the groom. Here George jumps in and gets bitten by a dolphin. And then later they come up with a crazy plan to steal the rings to ruin the wedding. And Julia does it, and then she gets caught. And it's a funny scene where George throws her under the bus, because even though he wanted to do it too, she's the one who actually did it. And then later they get drunk and have a good time, and it's like old times, and they embarrass the daughter, and it doesn't look like the worst movie I've ever seen. It's called Ticket to Paradise. Comes out October 21st. So, look, it's not bad. It's not going to be awful. This is like the kind of movie your parents are going to go see and have a good time. Right? It's not the worst, and you'll be able to endure it if you're I don't know, if you're middle aged, if you're my age. This would be a nothing movie. Now I'm a movie guy, so this is like nails on a chalkboard to me, because it's so derivative, and I kind of just see these two millionaires. Oh, okay, we're gonna shoot this thing in Bali. All right, sure, I'll be in this movie. I'll make $3 million and basically get paid to go on vacation. That's essentially what it is for these two stars. It's part of the reason people will, at their levels, sign on to movies like this, because they get to go spend 3 months in Bali living basically. I mean, these two are the biggest stars in Hollywood, right? So they're getting paid a ton of money. They're going to have amazing quarters. They're bringing their wives and their families. They eat and drink whatever the hell they want, as long as they're on set, they're not drunk, and they look good and whatever. And it's a great time for them. It's really a paid vacation when you think about it, because you're doing what you love. Hey, I don't knock them for it. I wish I could do this. This is what I wanted to do. So good on them. Is it a good movie? Well, look, it's a good setup. I'll say that, because they have a history, right? They were married and they're divorced, and their divorce was bad, and so they're at each other's throats. But they're forced to come together in order to derail their daughter's wedding. So that's a great setup. It really is. So the first act, of course, they run into each other on the plane, because they're both going to the same area. Turns out they booked the same plane. And then they have to get a woman to change seats with Julia in order so they don't sit together. And then, of course, they argue back and forth and talk about things. And they eventually agree, yeah, we're going to derail our daughter's wedding because we think she should be a career woman for some reason. Anyhow, they sort of make a pact. Then they get their second act. Second act is, hey, honey, and they pretend they're getting along, but they really hate each other. The daughter is suspicious of them, which is good. That's a good sign. The screenwriter is playing the characters at the height of their intelligence. And they get their own separate rooms, and they're like, okay, we're going to do this. How are we going to do this? So they're figuring it out. They're meeting a groom. They're hanging out in Bali. A couple wacky things happen. So eventually they try a couple things. It doesn't really work. Then they come up with this plan. The big plan, I guess, is to steal the rings. So they steal the rings. And it kind of derails things, but not totally. You know, the daughter's disappointed. People are looking around. They could still find the rings. Then you have the scene where they get drunk and they have a good time. And then it's like old times for them. Will they get back together just like the kid, or will they at least discover that, yeah, there was something here between the two of us, and we shouldn't deny that to her, even though her marriage, maybe our marriage didn't work, but maybe hers will, or whatever. So eventually she finds the rings, and that's sort of the climax of the movie. She finds the rings. Oh, Mom and Dad, how can you do this? And then they feel bad. Maybe they break up, but they work to get them back together. They were wrong. They realize their terrible mistake. The daughter gets married, and she's happy. They're happy. I don't think they get back together. Maybe they keep in touch. You know, maybe they've overcome their hatred for each other to the point at which they can get along. I don't think they're going to get married again, but who knows? So not pretty derivative. Let's be honest. It's a pretty derivative movie. I mean, it's called Ticket to Paradise. You know, that's a pretty derivative title. These kinds of plots have been done before. You know, it's but a good vehicle. I think, again, this will be a nice, broad-based movie for people who, they don't go to movies a lot. It'll be fun. I laughed at some of the jokes, so it's not bad. I think I would tolerate it. I think if I had to go on a date and see this movie, I'd be fine with it. It's not my kind of movie. I mean, I want more action and adventure, or robots and vampires or whatever, but I think this would be okay. You know? I don't think it's going to be the greatest movie in the world. I think it'll have a few laughs. Then it'll devolve into melodrama at the climax, and then it's a happy, sappy ending, and I'm just tuned out. But, you know, along the way there'll be a few laughs, enough that I could tolerate the maybe 2/3 of the movie. You know, I would probably like the movie to end with them hating each other even more, because that would be more of a comedic take on this. A comedic take on this comic, like purely comedian, would be they try to wreck their daughter's wedding, and really they deserve the worst. They realize that they're just two terrible people. And then they ruin things for themselves so badly, you know. By the end, they hate each other even more, you know. Maybe you could do that. But these guys, you know, they're movie stars. They're not comedians, so their comedic chops are okay. You know, in a fun way. You know, it's going to be light and funny. You know, George Clooney getting bit in the crotch by a dolphin. You know, it's not the worst comedy bit in the world, but you know, the way they shot it, even just in the trailer, is a little over the top in my view. And here they are arguing, oh, you got to put pressure on the wound or something, because he's bit on the leg. I think he gets nudged in the crotch and then bit on the leg. And then, of course, it's a bit multicultural because he's Bali. I get what do you call people from Bali? Balinese. So, okay, yeah, it'll be an okay movie. I think it'll do okay. Back in the 80s and 90s, this would have been a middle-of-the-road movie, the sort of generic movie. I mean, these days, with no movies like this, maybe this will do a little better than normal. It'll do, because it's a positive movie. It's nice to see positive movies, I'll say that. I don't want this movie to fail, you know? Even though it's not really something I'm going to put on the top of my list. You know, I'd want to see this movie do okay. I wouldn't be mad at people for it liking it, because it's the kind of movies that, you know, people go see it and they come out and they feel good about themselves. What are you going to criticize that? It's not political, so that's good. Anyhow, that's it for me, Tony D and Little Joan. Check us out on Odysee, Bitchute, and Rumble for our more base takes. Remember, we do 4 videos today, so there's 2 more you're not getting. Hollywoke hot take. Oh my God, so much stuff happened today in Hollywoke, you won't believe it. Anyhow, we're going to do some more videos. See ya in the next one.